Right. Yes, introduce myself. Right.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. So, as always, everyone in the lessons chat, can you actually see the lesson and hands up channel? Have I not given you the permission for those yet? Maybe not.
You have not.
I can't see the lesson now.
Can you see lesson chat now?
Oh, I can see it now, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I figured I just had to change one thing. So as per usual, I'm going to put the document in the lessons chat so you can all have a gander at that. It's also going to be on stream, so you can all read through that as we go, but I'm basically going to be covering over this, so you want to follow it through in stages as I go through. Some of these points, they're not written for, you know, written information. You shouldn't be reading through and taking it literally. I'm going to be expanding on each point, and basically each point could be my own form of a little bit of sarcasm and stuff. At the end of the day, it's notes, and I'm trying to talk to myself to make me understand what I'm trying to say to you in the lesson. So it's more note form stuff rather than actual literal writing. But everyone else on the stream, if you signed up, please do join the Discord immediately so that you can actually ask questions and answer questions at certain times. I'm probably not going to be asking any questions this lesson, but if you have any to ask, it would be good to join. I won't be reading the chat for questions. Otherwise, I think we're all good. But yeah, if you do want to ask a question, again, hands up channel, put the raised hand emoji in there. It will be much easier for me to know if you have something to ask. I may miss it for a little bit. At mentioning me is better in there. I should be able to see it better then.
I can't actually give people roles.
You can't give people roles, so I'll rip you.
No, and I also can't see the lessons channel.
I'll do it then. You can't see the lessons channel.
I won't be able to.
Because you're a teacher's assistant. Oh dear, there you go. Sign up as, I presume you can't see the hands up channel either.
I can't see anything.
I'm right here.
I can't actually give people roles.
Okay, that's Echo.
Yeah, Dino, if you could.
Daniel, do you mind muting yourself? Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Anyone that has background noise, especially if you're muted until you can talk, would be very useful. So I guess we'll get started. So the whole lesson's going to be on learning to improve, and what that means is we're going to be, you know, judging your own self-analysis and such, and mindset and all that jazz in terms of, you know, what you're actually playing to do in a game and why you're actually looking to improve. So if we look at that first, some people want to improve because they want to be competitive. So like myself, you want to play on a competitive team, you want to play in tournaments and such, one that's, you know, epic do, or just PCLs and stuff. Regardless, you want to be the best you can in this game. Some people improve for that. Some people improve just to be more comfortable with themselves. They feel happier that they're playing to a higher level. They want to reach elo cap and just know that they can play on a casual but strong level, basically. Some people want to meet other people of a higher skill level, so they might want to meet someone such as myself or someone such as Mikey or something and meet these players and play with them and have fun with them. All that stuff. So might be that. Maybe they want to better themselves in general. Maybe they just want to feel better at Paragon, better at games in general. Again, likewise, being more comfortable with themselves, it makes them happier and such, just being stronger at a game. Some people are into that, some people just don't want to get into competitive, but they just want to be good at games when they play them. But also be better than others, so just opposite of bettering yourself, people want to just be better than other people in general. They don't want to be seen below anyone else in terms of what they do, so they want to be the best they can in the game, so they try to improve themselves. Of course, some people just think they're better than everyone, and they end up, of course, just thinking that as they play, regardless of trying to improve themselves, which is completely wrong. So, if we move on to sort of elo, I've put elo and Paragon is fake / inaccurate. / inaccurate bit's probably a bit better to say. It's not fake, right? It's the only thing that we have to go off, basically, because elo, as it says there, it's a method for calculating the relative skill level of players in competitive versus competitive games. This can be any game. They're in every competitive game that you'll play, even things in, like, you know, chess and everything. They're in it. Elo is there. That's how we judge who's good and who isn't. Agora, it's reflecting the in-game MMR, so it's reflecting the same in-game elo that you have. It's what you have, you know? It's what you are. It is your skill rating. It's all we can go off of at the moment because it's where you're being placed, it's who you're being placed against. This doesn't mean it reflects how, like, you know, it does reflect the placing and where you are, so based on win-loss though, but it's not a reflection of your individual skill, like other games will be, like, I don't know, Overwatch or a League or something. These will be much more individual based. Players with a higher elo, they're more likely to be better than lower players. If you get queued of a master player, you're probably going to be doing better than a person who's in bronze elo, you know, it's most likely, in most cases. So, you know, there are, of course, the extremes and everything, but you do get the people that are better than master players in Diamond, you know, Plat's better than Diamonds and such, but can't quite get there, and that's mainly due to the way that the elo actually functions. So it needs to reflect other things, such as, you know, your roll, your KDA, your damage output, kill participation, all these things are factored into elo in every other game. It all needs to be factored into this one. It needs to be a very complicated formula. At the moment, just you win, you get some, you lose some, based on averages on what elo your team was and their team was. It's a very basic formula. It will need to be improved in future, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So most people claim elo is fake because they like it's fake because they like to think better of themselves. If you say it's fake for that reason, you're completely wrong. If you want to feel better about yourself, you know, improve at the game and stuff. Don't just claim that elo is fake and that you're better than that, basically. Other people will claim elo is fake for other reasons stated above, so that's relevant. But regardless, Paragon elo is not a good definitive number for a player's relative skill level. It's the only one we have, so that's why we go off of it. So if we're a competitive player and stuff, we'll look at the elo. You know, you should be looking at high diamond, master and stuff if we're looking to be on one of the top teams and such. It's the only thing we can go off of, basically, to get a general idea. There can be exceptions to this, but it's very, very rare, mainly due to it's the only number we have to go off, and it is still an indication, just not a good one. So if we get to the last big point of elo hell. So this is a term loads of people use, but it's more of a state of mind you put yourself in my opinion. You know, it's when you believe all your teammates are absolutely useless. Could be bronze, could be silver, it could be anything. It could even be elo cap, like I talk about when you're 200 player, you're being matched with a 1600 player. You think they're absolutely awful, and this is the worst thing you could be stuck in. You're playing with really terrible people in comparison to yourselves. The only way you can get away from this is, you know, determination. Play a larger volume of games to get away from the AFKs and bad players, basically, because they have 5 chances to get a bad or AFK. You've got 4 chances on your team, providing you're not one yourself. If you really deserve higher in your elo, so you're stuck in this elo hell, if you deserve to be above this elo hell that you're calling it, you need a larger volume of games. You need to play more and get away from all the AFK players, the bad players. You will eventually, if you deserve it. It will happen. You'll get to the point where you should be in relevance to everyone else. Of course, as I said, the elo is not definitive of individual skill level. It's probably one of the best we can have, so that's what we have to go off, so that's what we're using, so that's what we're playing towards. So that's why we're playing a larger volume of games, and this is why we're trying to get a determinate number. In future, we'll have a much better state for this, and people will be more accurately placed, but for now, this is what we'll go off, and I just thought I'd get this point across, because elo is very, very important to the future points that I'm going to have to discuss in terms of your own improvement, because it's not always what you're striving is higher elo, it's just to better your own play, and the elo comes with it, basically. So we'll cover improvement now, and we'll start with purely solo queue, so we won't talk about stacks or anything, competitive play, any of that. So you're not going to just wake up one day and be like, right, let's play a ton of games, let's improve, because someone like me, Bloodmordius, messaged me on Reddit and told me a ton of games and to improve. That's not what you're looking for. We're playing a MOBA, and in context of Paragon, your volume of games is important. What is more important? Consistency across the volume. So basically, your standard of play over a very long period of time. So you're looking to be consistent across all these games. So for example, if you have a 51% win-loss across 100 games, it's pretty average in relevance to everyone else. You know, you're going to be at this point, but you're going to have 2 games or so, you know, about that, where you're going to be gaining overall. You're going to be getting ahead of everyone else. Just a little bit of climb. So this usually means that you've settled in the area you should be, really, because, you know, you're still at that same bin, you're slightly getting up, you're slightly going down. If you drop below 51%, that is. But as long as you're above 50%, you know, you stay where you are, you'll most likely climb. Of course, in other MOBAs and such, and other games, because it's not vindictive in terms of win-loss, you can actually, you know, lose and climb very harshly based upon this 50%. But win-loss is still a good, accurate way to determine whether someone's pretty good or not, or where they should be at least. So if you want to know where you should be, your win rate is usually one of the best places to look. The more games you have, the more accurate it will be. So as I said, some people will disconnect, some people will AFK, some people will be bad. The best thing for you to do is just completely ignore these. Just don't focus on them at all. And the fact that you're here to improve yourself is what you're looking at. There are factors you cannot control, and you don't try to control them. You ignore the fact that they disconnected, you ignore the fact that those people AFK'd, and you ignore the fact that they're bad, right? You look at yourself and what you did wrong. That's the best thing you can do. What you want to control is your consistency and your mindset in these things. If your teammates are weak, your opponents are usually weak in the same regard. If they're not, then it's just unlucky. Again, in Paragon, we have this horrible elo cap system. It's really bad. We also have the horrible elo system in general, being not perfect. So I'm always going to refer back to the elo system, because again, it is slightly different in Paragon from other MOBAs, and I'm getting this knowledge and information, I'm bringing it across from another MOBA basically, and other games in general, in terms of elo system. But this is the best way you can look in terms of your improvement, regardless of what Paragon's state is at the current time. So make sure you focus on you, and make sure you're doing better than everyone else in general. So after the larger volume of games, you'll see that the only thing left standing, the AFK one game will not be mad, you know, that AFK player's gone now. If you've climbed, you know, if you won some more games, you got a 51% win rate, you're going to escape this guy. He's going to have AFK'd, he's going to have dropped, he's going to lose more games, he's probably going to drop, he's going to be down there. So AFK, he's out the way. He doesn't exist anymore to you. You know, you've progressed, and he hasn't. So, you see, he didn't matter. The bad players that are below you, again, they'll lose more if they're bad, actually bad, and you're better than them. You'll climb, they'll lose. You'll get away from them, so you'll go further up, they'll go further down. It's going to be the same all the way through. Those players, all that stuff, you can't control it, so you ignore it. You focus on yourself. This point's very important, so play on your terms and when you're feeling on top of your game. So this is very, 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 very important. This is the one thing that people don't understand. If you want to actually climb elo in terms of ranked, so if we go future, let's say Paragon's now got this good elo system, ranked is officially out, we've got all our actual things being factored into our individual skill level, and this number is very, very vindicative of where we actually stand among other players. If we get to this point, which I can assure is probably not that far off, this is going to become even more important. At the moment, it doesn't matter as much, unless you're looking to really improve to be a competitive player. So, play when you want to play, and when you think you can play your best. So, let's say you're a 51% win rate player. You climb very little at the moment. You're still in your area, and you want to go further, but you're stuck on this 51%. You will still continue to climb as long as you're always 51%. So you're still getting out of this skill level that you're in. But let's just say, you know, you have one bad game. So it's late at night, you want to play one more game just for the hell of it, you know? It's really late, you're super tired, right? You want to go to bed or something, you play one more just because someone wanted you to, right? Or you want to do it yourself just to play one more. Are you going to learn from it? Most likely not. Are you going to win? You're probably not. So this is going to put you down below your average of 51% and back to the average 50% win rate. You've done your 100 games, you know, 49 you lost properly. 50 of them you won well. This one extra game that you would normally win and get ahead of in your win rate that would make you climb, you've now, you know, screwed it because you tried to just have an extra game when you shouldn't have. You weren't feeling on top of your game or anything. You just played and you didn't learn anything from it. You didn't win it because you were really tired and everything. So you weren't up to your top of your game. So you instantly are making yourself a worse player by doing that. Think about if you do this 2-3 times, you know, a week or something. You know, just each night you just play that extra game. You're gonna trash your win rate below what it should be, not what you actually play at. You're not playing all the way to the point where you could be even 55% win rate and stuff, because you're making yourself lose all these games that you shouldn't have been playing, mainly due to yourself. So that would be your fault. Let's just take another scenario as a good example. So you have your same setup, this time you're duo with a friend. You know, he's worse than you. So let's say you're a 1500 player, you're playing with your gold friend who's just sort of going to gold, he's proud of it, he's about 1300 and stuff. You want to play with him because either, you know, you find it really fun, he's a good mate of yours, or you're trying to raise his elo, boost him a little bit. Again, you're more than likely going to lose, right? He's going to drag you down. He's going to be playing in a skill level that's much higher than his, and this will again ruin this slow climb. If you lose this game, it's putting you behind again. You know, you're going back down again. So this is another loss, and this is another example. So that's 2 examples. This is bringing your win rate to, let's say, 49%. If you do it every 100 games, you do one of each of these. That's 49%. You're now below average. Now you're going down from where you should be. So, you know, that's even worse. So this slow climb that you should be having is now turning into a slow decline, which is bad. Last example, because this is another very popular one, right? Family or friends, right? You want to go out somewhere, like a cinema, favourite film is on for one of them, you promise you'll be ready in 30 minutes, you know, maybe 40 or something, but you're like, you know, I'll have a 20-minute game, and I'll have 10 minutes to get ready. People do that. People do that all the time. There's loads of people that say, you know, oh, I've got to go, like, in the middle of a game. I've got something else to be doing, because it was all planned. You know, you end up having this drawn-out game, and you end up getting ready as you're playing and stuff. You're like, shit, we need to take Prime. we need to end, there's only 5 minutes left and stuff till I actually have to leave, I can't be doing this. This does a ton of issues, of course. Not only are you going to have to leave in a few minutes if you don't end the game, you're playing very stressed, you're playing very rushed, so you know you're stressing yourself out, you're playing in a much worse state, you're making rushed decisions to try and end the game, all that stuff, and it vastly increases your losses again, so it's just ruining your general gameplay. So being tired, being generous to a friend, stress, all these things, they can easily occur within that 100 game period, even multiple times. As I said, if you deserve to be that 55% win ratio player, this occurs 5 times in the 100 game period, you are now a below average player pretty much. You're not climbing what you should be in general. So these are all things that if you actually want to see where you're really at, ready to improve, you really need to be focusing on, you know, when you should play for yourself in terms of like, you know, ranked gameplay and everything. We've of course only got normal games in Paragon. If we go back to the point with Paragon's rubbish elo system, Paragon's only normal game system, it's a little difficult in Paragon. You're going to be playing all the time in it, hence why you shouldn't care about the elo as much and you should just keep continuing what you're doing. But, you know, it's the best we can put it at the moment in terms of this is going to be very important in a few months and this is how you should be thinking, basically. So these are all valid points as we move towards the better elo system, as I said, but we treat them as staples still. They're all very definitive factors that will affect your mentality in game, but we'll continue to talk about improvement, and so what you can control in game, rather than the RNG factors like people going AFK and stuff and being bad, and your mentality when going into the game. So when you play this game, you should pick one lane, right, initially. So you choose this lane, you're a jungle main, you're an off-lane main, whatever. You know this lane completely, in and out. You look at everything, you watch the top players, you know, you watch what they play in that role, you see what they do in that role, you study them, you look at their replays, everything like that, and you master that one role. You know 3 top heroes for this lane. Make sure they're staple meta picks that can easily be blind picked. This is always the best thing to do. You can even get away with 2 and stuff in this. Like, of course, we don't have a rank system, you don't even have bans, so you're not really going to be banned away at the moment, so it's okay to have 2, maybe even 1 hero you play. The issue is if someone steals it. But let's take jungle, for example. I'm a jungle main. Rampage, Grux, and Quang are 3 staple meta picks. The meta of 3 days ago, you know, it's a new patch. That's what I decided was the meta at the time. Might change in a few more days, we're still looking at v43, but even in v42, Rampage, Grux, and Quang, all meta picks, they've all got hard CC, and you can blind pick them all fairly well. They all work pretty well into whatever the enemy's going to pick. So don't be that person who plays Shimby in jungle as a one-trick pony, you know, just by themselves every single game trying to win every game. That won't show your true skill level, that won't show off who you are as a player, and you won't improve at your role. So make sure you have these few meta picks that you pick. Then you pick a second lane, and you know it just as well. Just not as extreme, it's not your best role, but you pick it the best you can. So when we do, you know, you don't get your role, you get to ranked anything and you're banned out of your role, main role or something, or someone's picked it above you, you've now got to pick something else. So let's say you pick support, you pick 2 heroes. You pick Miro, Narbash, 2 really strong heroes, they're good in the meta, solid heroes, pick those 2, learn those 2. This is your secondary role in case you don't get your main. This is the one you're going to play as best as you can as well. So you pick your one last lane. You shouldn't really ever have to go to a 4th or 5th role. If you do, I'd actually recommend you dodge or don't play if you want to improve yourself, because you're not going to start learning anything at this point. You're going to be playing something you're really uncomfortable on. So you pick your emergency lane. One you can flex one of your 5 heroes to, basically. So if it's off lane, this is a nice easy one. You can choose your Quang from your jungle, right? He's one of your meta picks. This is your emergency lane. At least you can learn the mechanics of the hero, right? This will give you some flex into the role. You don't need to know the lane that well. You'll understand your hero's mechanics, how to utilize them best. Especially once laning phase pass, you have, you know, your mechanics from playing the hero before in your meta role. So this is when you can sort of do emergencies things. So you're only really playing one main role with one side role if you have an issue with that. And then otherwise you're picking your emergency role, which you can just pick a hero in that you pick in one of your other roles already. Otherwise you're just dodging, basically. That's it. You shouldn't play, most likely. It won't work out good for you if you want to improve in what you're trying to improve in, which is being good at the game. You know, you can't learn every single role to perfection, basically, unless you're saying I'm superhuman. That's not going to happen. And you'll never be on top of your game that way. I'm going to play subpar if I'm in one of my off roles, and so will everyone else in competitive play at the moment. You need to, if you want to improve at the game, you should be playing your main role. If not, at least one sub role is the best way to do it. So if you are stuck in one of the two, like, you know, and you have to play it, like, let's say it's a rank system, you know, and if you dodge, you're going to lose elo, and you don't want to do that and stuff, and you think it's really precious to you. Let's say if they do a promo system like League, if it's like League of Legends and you're in your ranked promos and you've got to win the next 2 out of 3 games to get through, you're not going to dodge, because if you dodge the lobby, you get a free loss on your record, right? So you're already throwing away your qualifying series basically to get to your next stage, so going from gold to plat or whatever, or gold 2 to gold 1, whatever it is. So if you have to, and that's going to be the same in Paragon in the future, I'd recommend just picking something really simple. So if you have to go mid, pick Gadget. Don't be the person who plays Wraith in a game where you've never even played the guy or never really played the role. You know, it's never going to end well. Don't pick someone really high skill cap. Pick a nice easy hero like Gadget, where you can just perform the very basics of what you have to do. You know, even, you know, a Wally can just pick up Gadget, run into mid lane and chuck some bombs at people. At least you'll be doing something and being active in the role, if you're not going to be the one to dodge. So when we do get a proper elo system, I still wouldn't be afraid of losing a couple elo to dodge. Overall, you're going to be improving more by focusing on getting your role, one of your 2 to 3, basically. And you're here to improve what you do, and losing that couple elo won't matter, especially if you win the next game with the role that you usually play, because then, of course, you're going to most likely win, because it's the role you play, it's the role you main, it's the role you're good at, it's the role you're trying to improve at, and if you do well there, you're going to keep climbing, basically, and you're going to keep winning. So, this is all for the sake of consistency. These focused hero pools will vastly improve your micro on the heroes, your mechanics, landing the skill shots of the hero, laning with them, your mindset in the late phase, you know, and how you trade with them in jungle, how you gank and how you clear. All these factors, they're all small micro mechanical things that you work on and you will improve with time as you play heroes in their certain roles. If you play Quang offlane, you're going to learn your limits very well. You're going to know when you can go in at certain levels with certain cards, with certain gems, against certain heroes, with certain cards, with certain gems, to allow you to actually win trades or win fights and get you ahead in the lane. You're going to learn these things as you play and learn what you can and can't do with these heroes, basically. Once you get those down, that's when you can focus on the macro aspect of the game. So we'll go to the very basic point of pushing is winning. So that may sound stupid because freezing happens all the time and everything. If they're freezing, they must be losing. No, that's not true. Pushing is generally winning though. Most players push the lane and then hit a skill shot, do some damage, they deny some CS with the push under the tower, they get more CS themselves, and then this is when the macro kicks in, basically. You need to know how your jungle works. So you understand that you can be ganked. So, you know, you push up the lane, you can be ganked. So now you transition this into a roam. You back off, you pushed out your lane, you now go roam. Let's say you just purchased a Living Guardian to deny heavy basic attack damage from a duo lane. So if you're, you know, playing a Quang or something. So instead of Exo, you picked up Living Guardian, stop the TP's crazy burst damage from his left click, right click, while you're auto-attacking the minions in lane. And then you roam to mid to gank the Morrigesh, and then she blows you up. So her dot did loads of damage to you because you didn't have Exo because you had Living Guardian. So that would be your next step. You need to learn how mid lane works so that you can gank it from off lane more efficiently, or itemize to do so over winning your own lane. That Living Guardian may have got you to do the push and such, but can you actually perform the roam over with the Living Guardian, or should you be farming your off lane camps using the Living Guardian's basic armor to then help you farm those camps efficiently and sustain them so you can then go push your lane again? Or do you itemize into the Exo, push up the lane and take the risk, and then rotate towards the mid lane and then gank the Morrigesh, basically, allowing you to better survive her damage and then either force her out of lane, or even better, pick up a kill. Are there any questions thus far, just so that I don't ramble on while everyone's waiting? There's no questions in the hands up channel. All good? Okay. So, Paragon is easier than other MOBAs due to one factor. The off-lane, safe-lane matchup is a two-way street. You learn from both aspects no matter which side you play, making it half the work and effort if you learn from one of the two sides. Other MOBAs like League, you need to learn top, mid, jungle, and bot lane. Here, it's only the offlane slash safe lane, so one thing, mid and jungle. So you've got this sort of merge of the two roles, basically. As you play offlane, you'll learn what the duo lane can do to you, and what you can do to them. This will help you if you ever play a safe lane role, what you can do to them, and what they can do to you. So, in general, Paragon's much easier due to that. It'll help you pick up these roles much faster in the duo lane and the off lane. It helps you play them better, it helps you just play against them better. So overall you learn more faster, basically, due to 2v1 setup, basically. Just remember, before you get into the macro of learning the game, get the micro down, because it's going to be essential at all levels of play. It'll carry you past most limits you had before. If you got stuck at a certain elo, once you get your micro down, you're going to get above it much faster than if you learn your macro. You'll be at elo cap in Paragon's current system if you get your micro flawless. You're going to be able to just outplay people completely on carries or offlaners or something, or junglers, and you know, if support you're hitting every stun so your carry hits all the shots, this is going to carry you much further than macro will in the early elo stages of the game. You're going to easily hit elo cap at this rate just by having really outstanding micro basically. So once you've got all that stuff down and you can play your 2, 3 heroes, whatever, maybe 4 or 5, as long as you can play them to perfection, 1v1s, lane matchups, all that jazz, you'll do very well. You'll climb up until the point where you're playing against the best sort of players at the moment in Paragon basically, which is when macro is going to start kicking in. So jungle is always a good role to learn primarily or on the side. So if you're a jungle main, fantastic. If you are not, it's a good one to have on the side regardless of being a carry. Support, you know, if you're support, it's all about roaming and stuff. If you carry, you're going to be mostly working on mechanics and stuff, so carry is probably the furthest. Mid lane, you do a lot of roaming. Off lane, you do a bit of roaming, and off lane has similar hero pool to jungle, so sort of synergizes quite well most of those roles apart from carry. But it's always a good one to have on the side, mainly due to the fact that jungle is always going to be relevant to whatever lane you play. So if your off role is going to be support, or your main role is going to be support, and your off lane's off role is going to be jungle, that jungle role is going to help you learn support better, because it's going to make you learn how you can synergize with the support better, likewise support with the jungler better, likewise how you gank different lanes and stuff. You'll see as a jungler, can I gank this mid lane at this certain time? Yes, I can. Well, now I can play mid lane better, right? Because you can now know I can avoid ganks in this way because he could gank me if I stood there, for example. If I stood more towards the left and postured there, he can gank me from that side, and that's his strong side jungle. So therefore I don't posture towards the left, I posture towards the right. Something basic like that. You'll learn it better from a jungler's perspective because he'll see what you'll be looking for when you can actually gank people. So jungling is always going to be giving you that extra oomph basically in terms of learning. It's a very open role, it teaches you a hell of a lot, and it's the fastest way in my opinion to actually improve with the game, is knowing how a jungler impacts the game, because it's going to definitely help you a lot in terms of your other lanes basically, and how you lane and how you avoid ganks and how you react to your jungler ganking basically. You think if you gank your offlaner, he didn't react in the right way, why not? What didn't he do? Okay, now you're the offlaner. What do? Your jungler's ganking in this way. You know what to do because you've been in that situation before, basically. So, yeah, just that and that. In lower elos, try not to look for your win conditions too hard. It will hurt your level of play. So, basically, in lower elo, you know, you can outplay a guy really easily, basically, right? You're going to absolutely trash someone. In terms of mechanics, hopefully, providing you're better than them. But if you look at your win condition, it's going to hurt you. So if we do the example, you have a Sparrow carry and you're in silver, right? She's going to hyper carry late game against a kiteable team. You know, let's say they have people that are easily kiteable, rig to steal kind of stuff. You have a Narbash for peel. We can easily peel this for the Sparrow if she does get in danger. You've got an easy late game win. So what you do is you take very few risks. You'd play consistently. You'd play defensive until she comes online. And then you can look for it to carry, right? That's what you'd expect if you were thinking on a complete macro level on how you're going to actually win this game. Your win condition is going to be more focused on the Sparrow. In lower elos, she'll die late game to a Rampage Rock she didn't dodge. She didn't know, you know, because she didn't know she had a dodge or something, or she didn't know she could get away. She didn't get any peel, anything like that. She just died. And then you can't rely on her late game. In higher elo, she will get the peel. She'll dodge what is needed, she'll hit what needs to be hit, she'll play really well. Take Icam for a good example. Icameron's always a great solo queue carry to look out for this. When he solo queues, you can rely on this guy when he's playing Sparrow to late game, hyper carry a game. He'll hit all his shots, he'll dodge stuff, and he'll happily receive some good peel from a good support and perform well with it. He'll always be a good win condition to focus on. If you have a random Sparrow in silver, I would not recommend trusting them to be Icameron, you know? It's just this logical at this point. That's not insulting the silver player, it's simply logic. He is not going to be as good as this player. So, you don't let him be your win condition in lower elo. She'll be your win condition, you know, and you play to her as your advantage lies there, but, you know, only in higher elo. You should invest your resources into your win condition providing you have the team to do so. If you have the good players, the players that can perform well, then you play towards them. If you don't know, or you don't think you do, then don't. You don't play to those win conditions. It doesn't work on a macro level. Hence why I said the micro is more important. When you hit elo cap, you'll meet better players, you'll meet stronger players, players that can actually play to these win conditions and that can become your win conditions, basically. So, another thing of lower elo, scaling heroes perform better. So even when one side is being crushed, low elo players are absolutely awful at closing games. It's one of the worst things there for every MOBA, every game. It's the same. They're very bad at killing towers. They're very bad at taking prime. They're very bad at just taking objectives, doing stuff with their lead. They're very bad at closing out the game. It's always the biggest flaw. Always happens. A scaling hero is 90% of the time beneficial in what you need to do to win. It's always going to be late game. Champions, heroes, whatever, that allow you to carry from each role. So Narbash is super good for support, Belliker is super good for mid, Sevarog is super good for offlane, Quang is super good for jungle, Sparrow is super good for carry. All these heroes, they scale really well to late game, right? Super strong heroes, they can carry games, really awesome heroes. So these are the kind of heroes you're looking at, heroes that scale well to late game, you can make plays with, they generally have hard CC in their kit as well. These are the kind of heroes you're looking for, basically, when you're playing in lower elos. You learn to scale, you simply win a fight just by being stronger, and then you punish them by taking an orb, transition into a close, basically, after 30 to 40 minutes, you know, take some inhibs and stuff. Once you pretty much got 2 inhibs, you pretty much won the game in lower elo games. They don't know what to do with inhibs down. Snowball heroes do work at low elo too, so Countess and stuff, people who are notoriously bad late game unless they get miles ahead. So, you know, they're pretty good late game, like Countess is really good late game in general, but they're really, really good when they get really far ahead. They're very snowball reliant in order to perform to the top level you want to see them at. A Fed Kalari who can abuse lack of vision is another example, but do remember they're harder to master fully once you have climbs. So Countess, pick it all you want, you're probably going to play it offlane, you're going to carry yourself up to 1500 and stuff, you're going to get close to elo cap. As you approach this elo cap, it's going to get so hard to play this hero to 100% to proper, unless she's purely meta and super strong at the moment. An assassin hero in general, Kalari, Countess, they're going to be very hard to play. You'll see the Linane one-trick Kalari, basically. For a while, I mean, he plays other stuff now, but he used to be a one-trick Kalari player, basically. You'll see all these one-trick assassin players. A lot of them get to elo cap, and they do bad. Ones like Linane, they do really well. You know, he plays Kalari, he plays it to a masterful level. No one's going to take it away from him. People usually give him offlane for it. If not, he'll play it jungle as an off-roll. He's a really good Kalari player, and he plays it super strong to a high level. And that allows him to perform, but it's this huge skill gap. He has to play a lot of Kalari to do it. It's this one-trick thing again. It's going to be much less beneficial in the long run to just have this one-trick hero that you play. It's good for getting up to that level. It's not good in that level. So do remember that. Assassins are a tough one to actually have in there. Usually you flex it in with a couple of them really strong meta picks that you can pick usually, and the assassin is more of your niche. Remember, above all else, is to find your role, the heroes that you enjoy playing and that you want to master. So you have to really enjoy what role you're playing, be it jungle, be it mid, be it carry, whatever you really find fun. Get the heroes you really like in those roles. I love my Sevarog, I love jungling with him. You know, he may not be meta at the moment, I'm hoping he will be again. Regardless, he's one of my favourite heroes to play, hence why I mained him for so long and he was one of my best heroes. You can focus on getting the micro strong, you can practice the Blink 180 ults we had before, now you'd have to go knowledge for that. You can practice all the mechanics of the root and stuff coming off of the ult perfectly, stacking with his Q, everything like that. Then you can focus on the macro to the point where you can flawless the map. You do prime without people noticing, you execute perfect rotations and always there on time. And then you look to master your micro basically. Yes, you focus on getting your micro strong, you get some macro down, and then you master the micro. The micro is gonna, you know, get you up to that point where you need to be to perform within the macro environment. Then the macro is going to allow you to do all these rotations and prime everything, understand the map more. It's going to help win you the game, and then mastering your micro will help you pick up the crumbs when the macro crumbles. Let's say you're pretty good at your Quang, you made loads of good plays and stuff, you consistently played well in your elo, and then you get to the macro, you've got an orb prime, you really snuck it well, but one guy just happened to walk past, he goes into Zetchin to steal it, and he's going just through the entrance, but your really fast reactions and everything, you know, your knowledge on Quang and stuff, you're able to chuck the Tether instantly right onto the stairs, and he can't get in range of the Zetchin onto the orb, and then your guy secures it, and now that guy can't steal it. So just micro will help pick up the little bit of crumbs, knowing your limits on what you can do with a hero, and how you can prevent something bad from happening in a macro environment by mastering your micro, basically, and playing it to a perfect T, basically. So yeah, then basically look to master your heroes, master your lane, master how other lanes affect yours, as we talked about earlier with the rotations and everything. Master how you play into other lanes after laning phase, so if you're an offlaner, you may have to play into the other offlaner rather than a duo. Learn your 1v1 matchups and such. How can you play into this? Do you have to push and roam? Do you have to actually 1v1 the guy and kill him? Do you have to play safe? Do you have to get someone else to take over the lane for you? It might be that the mid laner might have to do it for you. You might just have to sit there and wave cliff you because it's a really tough person to 1v1 like Countess. It can be really difficult sometimes, so you have to really know your matchups. That's a really hard thing to do. It all comes with experience and knowledge though, and then strong micro basically. Focusing on one thing, get very good at it, then it'll have a trickle down effect on everything else basically. As good as you get in one role, it'll help improve your others in the long run basically. Any questions at this point? Or shall I move on to the last sort of section? Okay, last section it'll be. So some more intricate things, actually a second to last section. So this is a few just things you can do to help improve yourself basically that are a little more, you know, specialized basically. So to practice your last hitting, for example, a very specific mechanic that everyone who lanes, don't have to be a jungler, as a jungler I'd recommend getting good at it too, but every laner should know how to last hit perfectly and flawlessly and hit every last hit. Doesn't always happen, but that's what you need to learn to try and do. You go into a bot game, someone with low auto base damage basically, look on Aaron's sheet, find who has one of the lowest base auto attack damages. Ranged or melees based on what you main, so if you're offline you probably want to look at melees, if you're a carry you want to look at ranged heroes. You buy no card, no attributes, and just go last hit in a lane. Some games you'll be using Cold of Week, not always, it's very rare in mid lane for example, but as a carry you'll probably be using it a bit. But you're not always going to have it, it's not always going to be available, so this is still going to be important. Do it to reinforce the last possible moments to last hit a minion too. As Cole, sometimes you want to still freeze, regardless of guaranteeing CS. You still want to last hit the last possible moment, regardless of having the Cole, they'll make up for the lost CS. So you still need to do this basically, so you can better control your wave pressure basically. So you set goals as you do this, try to hit your highest CS possible within a certain amount of time in a bot game in just one lane, and this will prepare you for normal games. You can then use that goal in normal games, because realistically if you can do it in a bot game, you can do it in a normal game too. There's the same amount of minions in the same lane. Do remember your trading in lane, do remember your roams and your ganks, it will happen, but make sure to keep your farm up. Always be farming is always a big term. Never forget, it's pretty basic and you'll need to perform this, but you will need to perform stuff over farming at times. It's up to you to evaluate whether it's worth doing something over farming, but make sure you practice the last hitting. It's very, very, very important. Map awareness, some people set a 3-second beep timer for it, so basically it goes beep every 3 seconds. You look at your menu when it beeps. Some people hate it, some people find it annoying. I know a couple of people that find it really annoying. I don't like it myself. Some people do it, some people like it, some people do it with the beep, some do it without the beep, but you need to find a technique that will get your map awareness up. My saying is always say one eye on the map, one on the game, brain on the aim. So basically, you know, you're looking at the game with one eye, your other eye's on the minimap because you're spending half your time looking at the minimap to know what's going on, and then everything mechanical, or your aim, or your skill shots, everything, or your order resets should all be completely, you know, automatic basically. Just hands on keyboard and mouse doing their own thing. Your brain should be controlling all that part. So you need to make sure your map awareness is on point. It's going to be very core in terms of your micro and macro going forward. You can be in the middle of a very important team fight and stuff, but you look at the mini map, you see one guy's flanking you, instantly you can turn, you can follow up on what he's trying to do to your team. Could be a flanking countess, you turn, rampage rock, 180, kill the guy, you know, huge play right there. You had good map awareness, you followed up with good micro, that's a strong player. So make sure the map awareness is on point. It's going to save you a hell of a lot of games. Your game sense is very important, but it's very complex. So it's what you should be actioning on the map at the time based on what is going on everywhere else. So quite a complicated term overall. Basically, what is the most efficient decision you can do to make your to better your team towards the end goal, basically, of killing the core, basically. So of killing the core, what is the best thing you can do to actually, you know, get towards killing the core out of what is currently happening on the map? Sounds simple enough, but of course the amount of factors in the game, it's very, very difficult. So good example is how to use your advantage, how to capitalize on a split push, knowing your and your team's timers basically, knowing travel times across the map, and taking into account global abilities basically. You're a Kalari split pushing, you got to put the split push factor in there. Can I keep pushing this? Do I have an advantage in how I can be pushing this? Do I have the advantage that my ult's up? Yes, I do. That's a global ability. That's going to increase my travel, well, decrease my travel time significantly to actually get to a fight over there. Do I still ult over there, or do I keep pushing, which is going to better my team in the long run? Are they all going to die and I just die anyway if I ult over? If I keep pushing, am I going to take an inhibitor or something? Are they going to take prime off of it? You have to consider all these different little things, all the cards that they have, all the levels that they are, the strengths that your team has. Are any people dead? There's so many factors that go into this one decision, yet that one ult across the map could decide whether you win or lose the game, basically. So, make sure you know everything that's going on the map, and you use this theory. This is your game sense, basically, whether you can actually determine all these things. So all these things factor into one decision or multiple. Learn how to determine these factors on the fly, and you'll have a much easier time making decisions just by second nature, basically. So, that's just another learning thing that you have to get over. That's pretty difficult. Reviewing, self-analysing. This is the last bit, only a tiny bit. Analysing your own games is a crucial part of improvement. After a day of many games, take the couple hours at the end. Instead of playing more games, you know, you're really tired. You're going to have that losing game that you don't want to have. You want to completely avoid it. What you do is you instead sit down, you watch the game, imagine that person isn't you, just someone else, if that helps you study yourself. If not, then just keep pretending it's you. Doesn't matter which one it is. Write down all the mistakes you make, every single one. Missed a last hit, you know, missed a skill shot, anything like that. Every tiny little one. Write them down. After, read them over and look through the game again. So this is why you need a couple hours. Just do it over one game. How could they have been prevented? You know, if it's practice like last hitting, you just missed a last hit, do you need to practice that? Go into some mock games, practice some last hittings the next day. Is it hitting skill shots? Practice skill shots. I had a Smurf, I played Caster Rampage, and I threw rocks for a few hours just to get better at throwing rocks. You know, you can go into a bot game, you can throw rocks at people, you know, you get better at throwing your rocks, you learn the trajectory doing it, you learn the maths between the height, where you should throw it, where you throw it directly at them, where you aim it a little bit higher, how you predict the juking of it all, basically. All these little things, they can all be practiced a lot. All those things, you can just practice, otherwise, you ignore them, you can practice them with time. If it's a decision gone wrong, this is the more important stuff. What factors made that decision incorrect, and how will you know what to do differently next time when you're in that situation? Let's say you're doing that Kalari thing, you're doing that split push. What factors caused you to do that ult over there? Why did you do it? You ulted over, you died, team died, you lost a lot of stuff, maybe lost the game off of it, you could have maybe pushed and got an inhib. What factors made you die in that situation? What factors should you consider in the same situation in future that means you could actually have split push better? And when will you know that you should keep split pushing, or whether you should actually ult over the next time in the same situation? So consider all these things. This is the kind of stuff that if you do struggle with, you know, you get help from an external source. There's plenty of them. Plenty of people like to help out around in this community, which is very good for Paragon. There's also lots in League and everything. So I myself, for example, would help out in those regards. So yeah, make sure you choose a couple of those more complex mistakes. Focus on them the next time you play. So be it the split push, really focus on it. You're doing the split push, you're committed to it, and this time maybe you just want to improve. So maybe what you do is you just ignore, you know, the fight going on, and you just split push and see what happens. So you push all the way up and you take an inhib, and you actually win the game off of it because you got this downed inhib. They just got a good fight, the enemy, and then they backed off, and then you go back and then you split push the other lane or something. This works out well. Then again, you can look back at all the factors, but you focused on it this time, and now you're improving a lot on this, and eventually this bit will become second nature to you, whether you're pushing, you know, you're flashing your tab screen, you're looking what cards people have, where everyone is on the map, and instantly off you go. You can just ult over because you know that it's the right thing to do this time, or you know to keep split pushing and not to attend that fight because you know it's the right thing to do because you've been in the situations before. MOBAs are very situational. You're going to learn a lot more from playing more. Just make sure your brain is focused on what you need to improve on in that game, what factors are actually affecting what you're trying to improve, what you actually did wrong the previous time and how you can better it, or how you can do it correctly, or if it's going to be actually correct to do the thing you did wrong last time this time, basically. So yeah, now be it the rotation to mid that we explained a bit earlier, for example, you know how to avoid that, basically. A prime attempt with a couple allies, you've now learnt your limits, and you know you can't actually do that because maybe the missiles do too much damage, you don't have the right cards or something to actually push it. Whether you know to actually push a lane or simply retreat. All these little things, they're all going to be analysed in a replay at some point. and then, you know, you drop your replay, you think, right, this is what I've got to work on, really focus on it next game, and the next game you're really thinking about those factors all the time while you're playing. As you play, and then the situation comes up again, and then you know what you should be doing instead, and then you perform it. If it goes wrong, are there more factors you need to look into? Do you need to get help with it? If not, and it works well for you, then you've improved. And that's basically it. And that's how you improve generally in terms of replay analysis. But yeah, if you haven't checked it, look at Aaron's document on his little write-up on terms of learning to improve. It's very useful. So in the document linked in the Discord, feel free to open that link. The ELO wiki, just where I got the ELO rating system definition from, which is quite useful and a good read through, so you can understand why Paragon's ELO system is really bad. And then Yamato Cannon's YouTube. He's a coach from League of Legends, super powerful coach, super good, love this guy. He's really, really funny, and he's really good in terms of mentality coaching and you know, how you should improve as well. He's a great inspiration for what I've noted down here, and for the lesson that I've done here. So watch his stuff on improvement if you don't watch it already. The YouTube's there, the channel. He's got loads of good videos for it basically, and a lot of this came from a couple of those in terms of what to improve. So I hope this lesson was good. Managed to do it in 46 minutes, not an hour, so a bit earlier than expected, but no questions. If you have any questions, now the time is to ask them, basically. But otherwise, that's basically learning to improve. I'll be doing the same lesson tomorrow at 1 PM, you know, my time, so 2 PM CEST or whatever, early in the morning for America, straight after Worlds, basically, if you're watching League of Legends Worlds. But I hope you all learned lots from this. I hope it was useful, and I hope you enjoyed it. So, for the purpose of the VOD, bye-bye everyone on Twitch. Be sure to not check out the next one, actually, because it's going to be the same lesson. So tomorrow's the same lesson, so you don't need to watch that if you watch this. But yeah, otherwise, have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.